Okay, we're going to talk to the employees about the importance of acclimatization. We've talked about that. Okay, and then how that's part of your procedures and how that gets addressed. Importance of immediately reporting signs or symptoms of heat illness to a supervisor, so that your employees need to be encouraged to let a supervisor know earlier rather than later that they're not feeling well, okay, from the heat. We don't want to wait, okay, until it's a full-blown case of heat stroke. Okay, procedures for responding to possible heat illness. Okay, what are we going to do? Now the supervisor's been told that a worker has symptoms, either by that worker or by a coworker, or the supervisor recognized it. What is our plan? What is our company's plan? What do we do? Okay, so you gotta have that thought out. Okay. Procedures to follow when contacting emergency medical services and, if necessary, transporting employees. Okay? It may be a situation, a lot of farm labor contractors and in ag, where you're moving from field to field, you're out in the middle of a furrowed field. Maybe when you dial 911, you're giving emergency medical services, you're giving them the nearest cross streets, right? But then your plan that you've trained your employees on, your plan is to somehow transport that worker, if it's possible, to that nearest set of cross streets to meet with the emergency medical. Okay? So, but you have to think about your situation and what is going to be the most effective way to get them to the emergency medical. Maybe the emergency medical may not be able to get right to you. Okay? Or, you know, what's going to happen? So you might want to talk to your emergency medical people, the people that would be responding in your area, and ask them what would be the best plan. Okay? A lot of folks have done that. I think that's a good idea. Procedures that ensure clear and precise directions to the work site, including designating a person to be available to ensure that emergency procedures are invoked when appropriate. You know, if you're at a set location all the time, you know, a fixed site, this is a lot easier to deal with. But when you're moving all the time, this is a little tougher to deal with. A lot of farm labor contractors that I've talked to have come up with a sheet of paper. They've got their bulletin board with their portable toilets, and at the beginning of the day they have just a little briefing with everybody, and they'll put the sheet up that says, here's the nearest cross streets, all right, here's the plan for today, and because it might be different from day to day, okay, how we're going to deal with it. Supervisor training, really important. This is the point person that's out there. You know, when you've got a group of employees and there's a supervisor out there, this is the person that's really responsible to make sure things happen. In 2006, for the cases we investigated, it was for all the ones that were investigated, it was 66% of the time supervisors had been trained. The cases were not fatalities. Okay. On the opposite side of this, 66% of the time when the supervisors had not been trained, the cases were fatalities. Okay? So we're linking that and saying, hey, it's really, really important to get the supervisors trained, because how fast things can proceed from a little bit of heat exhaustion to heat stroke to becoming a fatality. Okay? So key to get these supervisors trained. So the information required to be provided by this regulation. So basically everything you've already trained your employees on, you're going to train your supervisors on, and then the procedures to follow to implement the applicable provisions of the standard, water, shade, monitoring the weather, all of those things, right? And then how do you deal with an employee that presents to you with symptoms? Okay? How are you dealing with that? Including the emergency response procedures, right? They've got to be ready to deal with it. From a training standpoint, right, you've all come here to come to training today, right? You're getting trained on heat illness, or maybe getting reminded if you've been here before about heat illness, okay? So when you walk out this door today, okay, are you, do I know that your company totally has effective procedures, that you're ready to go? Do I know that? How do I find that out? I've got to ask you, right? I've got to come back at some point and ask you some questions. And so what you need to do if you're the person responsible for your company, what you need to do is you've trained everybody, right? Now you're going to wait a little bit of time, and then you're going to come back and spot check. You're going to check your supervisors for sure, okay? You're going to check with some of the employees, okay? What are our company's procedures? Okay, what are the signs and symptoms of heat illness? You're going to ask them some of these questions that you've trained them on. That's how you determine whether your program really has the potential to be effective or not, right? If you just train and you never check to find out if your training actually stuck or not, right, you're not going to know. So that's the best way to find out. And not only that, when Cal OSHA enforcement comes out and they're going to interview your employees, right, and they've looked at your program, they're kind of doing the same thing, right? They're checking to see if the employees know what your policies are and your procedures. So if you've done that, you've got a better chance from a training standpoint when your employees get interviewed by Cal OSHA to sort of pass that portion, right, of the inspection, right? So I think it's really important that any sort of training you do, not necessarily just heat, you always want to sort of find out afterward. You know, I definitely give you all a certificate of attendance, right? But I'm not going to give you any sort of certificate of proficiency of being here today. I knew you were here, but that's all I can say, right? That's sort of how that works. And same thing with your employees, and remember that. To find out whether the training took, have some sort of way of spot checking. I know Joel Sherman out at Grimway does a great job, the safety guy with them. I was really impressed the first time I ever went out there and we were working with Joel. Went out there, one of the first things they did, not only were they checking their employees, but they were checking their farm labor contractor, people that were working for them, checking their employees as well. Just saying, hey, you know, what do you know? Tell me your procedures. Tell me what you do today under these circumstances, okay? So make sure you incorporate that in as part of your program.